session. And I do see a number, a 240-278-3233. Can I ask who that is?
Anna, I think that was Dan Nichols. He was on
Is that Dan?
his computer and his cell phone. Yes.
Okay. I may wait.
Yeah, apologies. I think I missed your note, Anna, because the Teams meeting informed me that this was being recorded and transcribed while you were talking.
Oh, okay. No problem. Just wondering if that was, I saw that you were in the meeting. I was just wondering if Becky Onashak was in yet. And she is. I can see that now.
Yeah, I'm here.
Thank you, Becky. Okay, so welcome everyone to the office hours for the FY23 CINR call. And this office hours session is for topic area 5, which is instrumentations and controls. And I want to welcome the program managers for the work scopes in this topic area. And those are Dan Nichols and Rebecca Onashak. And welcome and thank you for being here. Just to provide a brief overview of the office hours, it's an opportunity from the Office of Nuclear Energy that allows for the university community to interact with federal and technical points of contact with 3 main objectives. And those objectives are to better understand what the ongoing programmatic activities are, to ask and receive clarifications about what fits within the NE mission and the topic areas, and also to build better communication between the universities and the programs. So to that extent, I wanted to ask you to please keep those objectives in mind as you phrase your comments and questions. And also, one thing that I wanted to point out is that relevancy this year will be evaluated differently than in years past, whereas relevancy this year will focus very heavily on topics or ideas that fit within the NE mission space and will focus much less on programmatic priorities. So as you have questions, go ahead and please navigate to the upper portion of your Teams screen and raise your hand there using the reactions button. And we will call on individuals with their hands raised to ask questions. And so before we begin, Julie, you may have mentioned this already, but this meeting is being recorded. So if you don't consent to that, then go ahead and please drop off this call now that's being recorded. And then to open, if Dan and Rebecca have any opening comments or any opening thoughts, you're welcome to share those now.
I don't really. I'm just looking forward to the question session.
Great. Dan, do you have any opening remarks?
Not particularly, but just welcoming everyone and looking forward to the questions that they have for our subtopic.
Great. Thank you both. So with that, we can begin taking questions. So if anyone wants to raise their hand, we will start accepting questions. And we'll pause and we'll wait for a moment to ensure that everybody has a chance. I don't see any individuals who have called in specifically, but if I'm missing that and anybody is on the phone only and cannot raise their hand, please go ahead and you're welcome to speak up and ask any questions. Lon, I see that you have your hand up. Was that intentional?
Yeah.
Good.
Well, and I thought it's not for a question. I just hear this pregnant pause. And I just thought, first of all, I wanted to introduce myself and let people know that we're, very excited to be speaking about this topic. I think it's really important for DOE, and it's important at this time, for the country. Along with Katya LeBlanc, who's on the call, and Becky, we run the nuclear cybersecurity program. And I wanted to just offer a couple of thoughts, because we spend a lot of time sort of talking about how we're scoping. And, I'd love a world where our conversations get people in a creative space to really think about problems differently. But our scope is clear, and this is not talking down anybody. We're nuclear cyber, so we need things that are truly both nuclear. And so you think about what is unique about nuclear. Well, it's very risk-based. It's very important about critical safety functions that have to be maintained. That's what's different than a conventional power plant. It's these safety systems, their functions, protecting them, and also the unique ramifications of how nuclear power plants are built. Think about, working through containments, maintaining operation centers and that sort of thing. So that's just one key aspect I'd like to share, that we have a responsibility to stay in our swim lane, and Becky holds me pretty accountable to that. And I guess I would share one other thing, is it truly is security. It's not that we can't do things that are there are other groups at DOE that have other responsibilities, such as instrumentation control. So we're very focused on the security aspects. It's very important. And I do want to say one other thing. We try to be aware of research that's happening across the United States. So if we can find other areas at DOE, for example, that are doing the same research, we'll avoid that. I just kind of wanted to share a little bit about how we see the world, in case that provoked more discussions. Katya or Becky, is there anything you wanted to add or correct?
Nothing on my end, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for that information, Lon. And we had an attendee or two join as you were speaking, Lon. So in case any attendees missed, if you have any questions, you may speak up and ask any questions that you may have, or you can also use the reaction to raise your hand, the reaction button in the top portion of your screen. So if there are any questions, we'll give you a moment to ask those. And as we're waiting and giving people some time for the opportunity to ask questions, I'll fill some void space here with some information on the work scopes, in terms of there are for instrumentation and controls, there are 4 work scopes. And keep in mind that IC4 is an other type of category. So it's an other work scope. So the intention of that other work scope is to capture ideas or topics that aren't necessarily captured within the other 3 specific IC work scopes. So there may be some questions with regards to that work scope, and those are welcome also. And we'll continue to give another minute or so for questions. I'll make a final call for questions within a minute or so. But if there are questions that come up after this office hour session has ended, Julie kindly posted in the chat the email address to send those questions. So additional questions or questions that come up after the fact can be sent to neup@inl.gov, and the integration office will coordinate with the correct point of contact to get an answer and distribute that amongst the NEUP community. And Julie or Tyler, if one of you would please post the page of resources that people can access to to find the recordings of all the office hour sessions, that would be appreciated. These are being recorded and they're being posted throughout the week at the NEUP site. So those are available. There's a document with all the questions and answers that have been transcribed from the webinar and the office hour sessions and through email. All of those questions are available for the NEUP community to browse as well. And Julie provided the link to that page. Thank you. Okay, we do have a question. Jason, go ahead and come off mute and ask your question, please.
Thank you. Let me see. I have a camera. Thank you. So this is Jason Ho from NC State. I have a question regarding IC2, scope area. This is maybe just my misunderstanding from the original webinar. I think I had the impression, maybe I was wrong, that somebody says this scope is not seeking for proposal related to the integrated energy system. Did I hear that right, or can you please clarify that for me?
Sure, absolutely. Good morning, Jason. This is Daniel Nichols. I'm the Federal Program Manager for the Advanced Sensors and Instrumentation Program and also the point of contact for IC2. So when it comes to integrated energy systems, there are other work scopes that I'm aware of that are a little bit more targeted towards those. One of them that might be beneficial to review and to look at would be LS2, looks at like the safety implications of utilizing process heat. What else? I'm trying to look for. RDO3 is the integrated energy systems and industrial applications. So it really comes down to if the control system that you're proposing, developing, or researching is specifically targeted to integrated energy systems, then it may be more beneficial to apply to that RDO3 scope. Now, if it's something that's broad and cross-cutting and advanced control system that could apply to many different avenues, maybe it's not just about balancing thermal energy systems or integrated energy systems, but also load following or balancing multi-unit plants, then that might be something that would be more beneficial to be under IC2. That's to the discretion of the applicant. And I would love for Anna or Julie to chime in. There is going to be a little bit to this process this year where when applicants submit their proposals, their letters of intent, or their pre-application is the term that we use, then it will be reviewed by program managers for relevancy. And there may be suggestions as to a better work scope to that work fits under. And so that suggestion will be provided back to the applicant, and they would have the opportunity, if they would like, to change what work scope their application is for. Is that correct, Anna? Do you mind chiming in, correcting me if I
Yeah, that is right,
information?
Dan. So if a program manager views the application and feels like it would be a better fit for a different work scope, there would be the option to move that application to that work scope if the program manager identifies it as being a better fit. And that would not be done without the consent of the lead PI.
So ultimately, I guess what we're looking for is for applicants to identify their best guess of where their proposal fits. And then there will be a pre-application review and suggestions might be made as to where a better fit. But does that kind of answer your question, Jason? I wanted to make sure I covered it.
Yes, it does. Yes. Thank you for the clarification. Yeah, it's just because I heard such a thing in the webinar, but I couldn't find it later. So I just wanted to ask again. Thank you.
Absolutely. Welcome.
Thank you, Dan, and thank you, Jason. And Jason, I noticed that I think you may have logged into this session after I explained briefly the relevancy portion this year. And so when Dan mentioned a review of relevancy, just keep in mind that relevancy will be looking more heavily in terms of is the idea relevant to the any mission, and less so on programmatic priority.
Okay, thanks very much.
Anna, we have a question in the
Yeah.
chat.
Yeah, yep, I see that
Okay.
from Jingong. And the question is, and you're welcome to come off if you would like and ask this question, or I can read it.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, wonderful. Go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, I'm Shingang from Oak Ridge National Lab. I was just, this is a similar question to Professor Ho's question about the sort of the relevance when it comes to like autonomous control with AI ML, would be a better target topic area. I guess I got part of the answer from the answer to the previous question, but just want to seek some more clarification. So the topic area would be, between this IC2 and versus the RDO5, which is specifically about using AI ML for nuclear applications.
Sure, absolutely. And I can chime in on that as well, since RDO5 and IC2 are, I'm the point of contact for both.
Oh, great.
So I guess from my position, so RDO5 is better at capturing artificial intelligence and machine learning applications that are more application agnostic, in the sense that they are techniques that could be applicable to multiple different avenues, cross-cutting in nature. Whereas IC2, if you're utilizing AI ML techniques to develop autonomous operations, for example, then that is clearly targeting a advanced control system application. So in my opinion, being that I crafted both of those work scopes, it would be more beneficial to apply towards IC2 because you have an application in mind, versus RDO5 would be if you were saying, I'm developing generally these AI ML techniques that could be used for various different applications. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Yes, I got it.
Awesome.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
All right, thank you for the question and thank you for that clarification, Dan. Do we have additional questions?
Well, since we have a little bit of space available to discuss, I just wanted to give a general clarification to the audience, one that I believe I gave during the original Q&A session, but then I wanted to give also during these office hours. That in previous years, work scopes that were targeted towards sensor and instrumentation development typically gave a specific application that was necessary for the sensors and instrumentation to target. I believe last year was structural health monitoring. But for this year, I wanted the audience to be made aware that when it comes to IC1, that work scope is not necessarily confined or restricted or limited to a specific application in regards to structural health monitoring. This year, we're really looking for any sensor development, whether that's enhancing existing sensor technologies or developing novel and new sensor technologies that might be low TRL, but that are applicable to the nuclear industry, that support the NE mission. It really can be something that targets existing reactor fleet, the advanced reactor concepts, supports fuels and materials testing, a wide variety of avenues. And so just wanted to make the audience aware of that. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Thank you, Dan. As we're waiting for any additional questions to come in, it's a great opportunity for any of the technical points of contacts or program managers to add, any other information like this that would be beneficial to the community that we can capture in this recording. So if anybody has additional thoughts, please go ahead and share them.
This is Becky Anashak with the cybersecurity program. I would just kind of echo, I hope we've stated it clearly enough before, and that's why we're not getting questions, but I would echo some of the things that Dan just pointed out. There's similar overlap between cybersecurity and other areas as well. And really, the way we've sort of separated it out is if cybersecurity is an important consideration in some other field, you should probably apply under that area. Like if you're developing an AI system and it needs cybersecurity as one of the key requirements, it's still an AI application. However, if you have a cybersecurity solution specifically that could apply to all different kinds of AI, then you're probably in the cybersecurity area. I don't think it's going to be quite as critical as it was before because of the new way that we're doing relevancy that's been discussed. So we can consider things that don't have to map quite as exactly program line by program line. I think this is going to work better, I hope. But if there's any questions about that, we can address those too. And we have, again, broadened cybersecurity much more than it was in years past to look at cybersecurity relevant to a whole lot of different parts of nuclear. It just has to be very nuclear.
Thank you, Becky. So with that, I will take a final call for questions before we close this down. So any questions? Okay, if there are no further questions, I'll keep watching for hands to raise. If there are no further questions, I want to thank Rebecca and Dan and Katya and Lon for being here and participating, and the audience for your participation as well. And like Julie posted in the chat, there are a couple links to resources there, as well as the NEUP at inl.gov email address for additional questions that can be sent and then distributed amongst the right point of contact. Any parting comments from program managers, technical points of contact?
I guess I'll just say that I'm looking forward to seeing what applicants submit this year, especially since we're giving a lot more openness to our work scopes, and we're really trying to cultivate potentially avenues of research that have not been leveraged previously. And so since we're judging applications more holistically in support of the NE mission, then it could really show some really unique and interesting opportunities for research and development. So I'm looking forward to it.
All right, thank you, Dan, and thank you, everybody. So we'll go ahead and wrap this, and this will be posted on the NEUP site. And thank you all again. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.